Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and mute my video because it's a distraction. I find it a distraction. All right, well, hello everybody and welcome. I really appreciate everybody making time in their schedules to attend this webinar, this wrap-up, our summer reading wrap-up webinar. You know, none of us could have predicted the level of disruption and chaos that this pandemic has caused in our libraries and in our lives, in our country. It's just been phenomenal. So this webinar really is just an opportunity for all of us to kind of reflect on the past couple of months and to acknowledge the challenges that we've all kind of gone through together, and also to celebrate the many victories, you know, large and small, that we have, we've also experienced and have occurred. So there have been good things that have happened this summer. I know some people laughed when they saw 2020, the year we would all like to forget. It was just a brutal, you know, this pandemic just happened so quickly, and it just caused a lot of distress everywhere. So we're going to put this slide here. So these are the things we're going to talk about. I'm hoping to talk about, we always have more additional topics come up as the webinar progresses. I'm happy and really strongly encourage people to share. This is your opportunity to share with each other as well. If you would like to share, just unmute yourself you know, I'll ask questions, but also if you want to talk, this is your opportunity to talk to each other as well, or if you can want to share in the chat. But we will be talking about iReads. This was the first year that the Alaska State Library partnered with iReads. iReads is overseen by the Illinois Library Association. And so I am curious to hear from you guys what you thought of the theme and the quality of the materials. We sent out the promotional materials to all of your libraries. I know a lot of you closed and may not have even distributed those out, but I'm curious about to hear from you what you thought of the materials and the theme. So if you want to share, that'd be great.
This is Adrienne. I really enjoyed the Dig Deeper. The kids really got into it. I had to do a little bit of moving. We dig deeper in our backyard this summer since I didn't have a whole lot put together from the actual iRead stuff. I never was able to purchase anything due to the pandemic hitting. I was just late in ordering stuff. So anyways, we dug into the backyard and learned about Alaska animals, plants, birds, and all that kind of stuff this summer in our backyard, and did scavenger hunts for all these different critters and stuff, and just in our backyard. So the kids had a real good time. They got outside with their families. It was out bike riding and walking and doing these scavenger hunts. So we really had a grand time with it, with the 13 children I had available this summer.
Adrienne, that actually sounds really great. Sounds like you made the best of the situation by having all your activities outside. Did other people do that as well? Did you guys take advantage of the space around your libraries to have kids come and participate?
I did. I used iRead. I mostly used, like, they had all of the themes and the, like, incentives and, like, the book logs and things like that. And I actually did it in, I think, February. So all the stuff I ordered, I did it in, like, 2 days before we had our final big ending thing. So I was able to make up, like, prize packs. So it worked out okay. I liked that they had the whole theme all together, so I didn't have to get creative about that. But we kind of did our, like, I took ideas from the lessons and things that they provided, but we did kind of our own thing. We did a lot of outdoor things. I made tickets to send home to the kids, and a lot of it involved getting out and going outside, like doing scavenger hunts for plants and things like that. We definitely did lots of outdoor stuff too.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I do know there was an issue with the reading logs. We had sent them out. I think they had the wrong year. And they were supposed to send them out. And I think I got an email late that she forgot about resending those out. So I'm sorry about that. But it sounds like sounds like everybody pretty much tried to make the best of it. And I'm glad to hear that a lot of you were incorporating the scavenger hunts. That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, so we're also going to talk about the youth service workshop, the Beanstack, the To-Go Kids virtual programs, the upcoming themes. We have the theme also for 2022, and then some reading challenges that we hope to kind of keep people engaged until the next summer reading program. But before we go to the next slide, would anyone else like to share how they incorporated the iRead theme into their program, or how they used the manual, or any other comments about those about that topic?
This is Susan in Fairbanks, and I was just getting my order ready when we were all required to shelter at home, and we're a very bureaucratic organization here, so that may have had something to do with it, but it turns out that what I thought had been actually ordered when I was checking back to see when it was going to arrive when they were sending out notes in June, turns out hadn't been ordered at all. So we also got our stuff kind of late in the game. Most of the stuff I thought was fine. We ordered some of those beakers of slime, and we actually had to throw all of them away because there was no labeling on them whatsoever. And I wasn't going to hand out anything that could potentially get in the hand of a small child that didn't say what it was or what it was made of. So that was just one comment I wanted to make.
Thank you. That's a really great comment. I wasn't aware of that issue. Anyone else have to throw out the beakers of slime?
We were just lucky.
Yeah. Okay. You were just lucky. Okay. Okay. If there aren't any other comments, do I hear somebody? Oh, this is it's my own reverberation. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next.
Julie, one moment, if I may.
Yes.
This is MJ in Juneau, and we got our order in shipping. So when it came, we did not award prizes along the way at all. We just, whoever registered when it was over, we had their ages, which ranged from 1.5 to 103, at least was what the person claimed. And we made packages for everybody out of the stuff that had showed up, and like all of our old book club sets and kind of everything. So everybody got a gift pack. And I thought the materials were really nice. The bouncy balls bounced and whatever. The bags held up good, and we loaded them heavily. So I thought going with iRead, they came through pretty good.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and I love that one. Did you say 1 to 103? Wow.
Yep. Yeah. Right. So whoever put all those numbers out forever, year by year, thank you. Somebody picked it.
Fantastic. All right, thank you, MJ. Okay, so I'm going to go on to kind of just doing a little look back. So, you know, we had the best of intentions. We were going to start this year's summer reading off with a bang. There was a youth services workshop scheduled for March, and it was going to be a day-long session. It was going to be educational and help support networking and include lots of fun activities and hands-on activities, and it was just going to be a blast. And then the COVID pandemic just struck, and I had to make the excruciating decision to shut it down, and I'm glad I did, because my concern and what really prompted me to shut that down at the last minute when I had to was because we had 37 people registered, and they were coming from 26 communities around the state, and some of those communities were really small. And just the idea that they were going to come to Anchorage and they were going to take that virus back, I just could not do it. And so we shut it down, and right after we made that decision, basically everything shut down. But I do want to—
You made the right— sorry, Julie, I was going to say, by the time, you made the right call, because by the time the workshop happened, Anchorage was in hunker down, and we wouldn't have been allowed to host it for you all anyways.
Yeah, but there was so much work that went into that. I mean, months of work. And look at this list of presenters, just some of the luminaries in the youth services in Alaska. I mean, it was going to be so awesome. And what I hope is that we can, there was a desire at the time to go virtual with that conference. I couldn't, because we were doing this big pivot and I just didn't have the capacity to do it. But now I think that there's an opportunity, this group might want to talk about it, of maybe, because some of that content's already been created, to think about, could we do this in January and use some of those resources, or maybe just tweak them for the upcoming theme. It would be virtual. It wouldn't be face-to-face presentation. So I think that's one of the maybe things to look forward to. I think there's still a lot of desire for providing that kind of training. So I just wanted to thank all the people that were a part of that and just acknowledge that to me, it was one of the saddest parts of the summer. Does anybody who was on this list who participated, do you guys want to share anything about the youth services workshop?
I was sad when it was canceled. Obviously, I love seeing all of your faces and going out to dinner with all of you and just chatting and hearing about your libraries and all the amazing things you're doing. But I'm even more sad in retrospect, because my goodness, do I miss people. But I think it was the right call. I think we've had more webinars recently than we've had in the past, and I've really appreciated that format. It's easy for me to come in. It's easy to hear lots of perspectives. I know some of us are working on maybe doing one about STEM and discovery kits in a few weeks. I think it'd be interesting to see if we can't parlay this into a culture of learning for youth services statewide. Because I think all of us are always learning and adopting and trying new ideas and amazing things. And I just want to hear more about what everyone's doing statewide all of the time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think I love that cultural learning and doing more of these kind of trainings. Yeah. There is a real desire. When I see 37 people that registered, there's a real desire across the state for this kind of training. Okay, so COVID hit, everybody shut down, and then the Alaska Library, we tried to figure out how can we support summer reading in our public libraries across the state when nobody could come into the actual building. So we made a decision to purchase 2 years of Beanstack, and I got a lot of questions about why didn't we go with other products. Well, I have been to other presentations by other products. I've talked to other people about other products. I have to say the folks at Beanstack are amazingly responsive, and I think it's a good product. I think there's severe limitations, obviously, when you're trying to do something statewide with a product that's really not built to be shared by so many libraries with different programs. So it was a learning, it was a learning year. It was a challenge getting the system up and running, and I am very grateful to Claudia Haynes and Elizabeth Nicolai for developing some quality programming for all of those reading challenges. I mean, I put something together and it was ridiculous, but they put together something that was brilliant. And I think going forward, I think we are always going to want to have that piece be put together by trained youth services librarians, the activities, because I think they just bring their expertise to it and develop programs that are activities that are fun and engaging and perfect for and appropriate for the ages. I also want to thank Amy Carney. She is our publication specialist. She helped design the graphics that went into the Alaska Summer Reading Program. And also I want to thank Kelsey Scrobis from Anchorage Public Libraries, because she developed this adorable reading log and allowed us to share it on our site. And it's a printable version of the reading log. And it just really was a compliment to the program. This summer, when I think about the summer and reflect on it, it's like all of us were we were forced to learn new skills on the fly and to adapt to all of these outside forces that were beyond our control. You know, your summer reading program was completely, I'm sure, done in a different fashion than you've ever done it before. Even the statewide summer reading program was done differently. And it wasn't because we chose to do it that way, but we were just, all of us were having to react. I want to speak to one of the issues that came up with the Bean Stack, and that was the rewards message, the rewards email. So when somebody completed the challenge, there was an email that was triggered that congratulated them for completing the challenge and directed them to contact their library to pick up a prize. And because libraries were closed and staff were dealing with curbside services and everything else, they were getting inundated with all of these phone calls from desperate patrons who missed the library and were feeling bad, and they wanted a prize that they earned. And these libraries weren't prepared for that. They hadn't anticipated they were going to be giving away all these prizes. They didn't anticipate they were going to be participating in Bean Stack. And it just caused a lot of bad, ill feelings. And so I tried to edit that message, and it didn't work. And so then I had to talk to the folks at Bean Stack, and the recommendation was just to strip out that reward email. Well, when we did that, it stopped the phone calls, but it also broke the link between Bean Stack and the public libraries. So people completed the program, and it did not say, contact your library or thank your library or your library is so excited for you or anything about their library. And I think that was not the best situation. I think when we go forward, two things. One is we're going to be able to opt libraries in or out. You know, I created a list of all the public libraries when we first put Bean Stack together, and I incorporated all of them. So anybody who registered, if their library was there, they selected their library, because I knew librarians, they wanted that. They wanted to know who from in their community was participating in the program so they could track that. But I know that some libraries simply aren't able to reward people. Now, I think there's a lot of free ways or inexpensive ways to reward someone. You know, if they get in a award message, you just enter them in one drawing. There's one drawing for adults, you know, so you have maybe 4 prizes you got to come up with. Just stick their name in a drawing at the library, and at the end you pull their name out. Or you could do a public, you know, there's a posters that publicly acknowledge people complete the program and they get that recognition, acknowledgement. You know, I don't think it always has to be an expensive deal, but I know this is an issue, but going forward, I really think that reward email is important. Okay, any questions about Bean Stack? I do want your feedback about it. I really do. That we're going to have it for at least another year, and I think it's important that we try to make it work for as many libraries as we can.
Hi, this is Jillian.
Hello? Oh, hi, Jillian. You kind of faded out there.
Hi. I'll try. So,
Hey, Julian, we can't make out what you're saying. I think it may be an internet speed issue, so you might want to put your comments in the chat box.
Hi, Julie. This is James from Kenai. I hope you guys can hear me.
Hi, James.
Hi. I was just calling to comment that I think that Bean Stack was a necessary change this summer from Kenai's standpoint. You know, our doors and our curbside, I don't believe, was even open at the time that we really wanted the summer reading program to begin. So at least we were able to have people sign up when there was no other outlet to communicate and have patrons participate in the summer reading program. So I thought it was very necessary, and I just want to applaud you, and Elizabeth and Claudia and all those that participated in getting it all together, because from our standpoint, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do, and being a library, at least since I've been here, that I've not done a virtual summer reading program or a digital summer reading program, you know, I think that was, you know, the necessary solution. So I think, you know, looking at our numbers and our stats, you know, I think now that we've done it once, you know, we can certainly advertise it a little bit better, and now we can figure out what we need to do here in Kenai to make it even more effective in getting the word out. But I just wanted to say thanks, because I thought it was the necessary change that needed to happen. So thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. And it was a lot of people's involvement. It really was. And I'm so grateful. I mean, because I don't think I could pull it off. But I do think if we promote it, and here's the challenges. I did run reports, and these are all of the challenges. I just stripped it out by completions. And you can see, you know, there was a lot more people that registered that completed, obviously, but we did have a fair amount of people who actually completed the program. Okay, so a lot of people were forced to do curbside summer reading, and some of them did it really successfully. So I'm curious to hear from you guys, you know, what worked with these crafts to go or discovery kits to go or STEM kits to go, and what didn't work? What would you do differently? I really would like to hear from you guys.
This is Adrian. Our curbside, it worked but it didn't work. If there's crafts involved, it worked. If it was just the coloring pages, it didn't work. They didn't pick up the coloring pages. But if there was a craft involved with it, then they picked it up and came and got it. If it was a craft that went with the scavenger hunts, it even worked better for us. So the different activities seem to work better versus just coloring pages.
Here in Kenai, we did the DIY for all ages, children, teens, and adults. And I think the most memorable DIY was designed by one of our librarians, and it was a escape room in a bag, or escape room in an envelope. So it was a little bit of legwork, but she mass produced all these little kits it was an envelope and a letter, and you had to figure out who sent it to you and why they sent it, and you had to peel up the stamp that had a clue and all kinds of cool stuff. And we were getting phone calls just asking, did I solve it? Because this is what I came up with. And it was really neat to see the engagement on that. And then people were asking for that after that kit had already cycled through the weeks. So because of the success of that, we're going to try it again in September with another escape room and an envelope for kind of a Batman day. And then we're going to do a escape room envelope in October also. So a little bit of legwork, but really pretty fun and community excitement towards it.
This is Elizabeth at Anchorage. The kits were incredibly popular for us. We started probably the first month. I gave around about 1,000, and probably 1,500 in July, and about 2,000, on track for 2,000 or 2,300 in August. And that's across all 5 locations. And some of the most popular ones, the craft ones are popular, but some of the most popular ones are like outdoorsy ones. Like we did a bug identification one, and we just printed the beneficial spiders and insects of Alaska from Cooperative Extension and gave kids a really cheap magnifying glass that I got in bulk. And people loved it. They went nuts for that. And we did another one where we printed a tree identification guide from the Forest Service. And then like a little journal to mark which trees were in your neighborhood. And it was just printouts, but people were thrilled to like walk around their neighborhood and find trees. Probably doesn't work in Nome. Sorry, Marguerite.
This is Molly in Valdez. So each week I called it like a DIG challenge, and DIG stood for Discover, Investigate, and Grow. And so each week I would put up a video that was kind of like like talking to kids and like sending them like on missions. And so they had to come to the library and get like get a sheet for like a scavenger hunt, like to find different places around Valdez. Or I hid dinosaurs around town, and they had to come and get like a sheet so they could figure out like where the dinosaurs were and to come find them. And I did like an obstacle course out in our parking lot. And so like stuff like that. I did a few kits where they like, I put in supplies and they made like flying machines or some like little craft stuff. But I think people were way more into like coming and getting like instructions for what to do and then go out and do it. So yeah, it was very different than any kind of summer reading I've ever done before, but it was a ton of fun. So yeah.
Is my audio any better with my video off?
Yes, I think so. You want to go ahead, Jillian?
Yeah. So we have a lot of.
Okay, I spoke too soon, I'm afraid. You faded out. Sorry about that, Jillian. We can't hear you. Jillian? Okay. I guess we're gonna, are there any other people who'd like to share about their to-go kits and how they incorporated them into their program? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go on to the next slide. Okay, so virtual programs. I know a lot of people, and Molly was just talking about her program, her virtual program, how she was talking to the kids and then would send them on a mission. And then I know, James, you might want to share about your Junior Explorers Clubs. But I'm curious about how successful the virtual programs were and what were your lessons learned when it came to the virtual programs?
Yeah, so with the virtual programs, the theme really lended to some of what we wanted to really showcase in our virtual programs. But what we ended up, as opposed to the readers and the completion of the reading part of the program, we did see a boost in engagements for our virtual program. And I think, you know, my coworkers and I have theorized that we put some work into the editing of it, including green screen effects. We try to do special effects, and that I could really attribute that to one of my staff members who is pretty handy with an Apple and iMovie, and then I know a little bit about iMovie to do some creative editing. But the Junior Explorers Club, it was something where we just wanted to set up this many episodes. We tried to develop lessons, and I have a little list here of like digging into soil, dinosaurs, great mysteries, and each one, the kids could do something at home to learn more about that. So with the soil, they could do a soil sample and how to distinguish if their soil is good or bad soil. With outdoor skills, there was knot tying. With robotics, how to build a small mini robot. So there was all these just little lessons. But then we added a puppet show integrated into it, which was a lot of fun. I enjoy writing those little puppet show scripts. And then we added a kind of a host to it, and he had a puppet helper. And all of that was, I think, when we realized that we're not going to be able to offer all the programming where we'd have, you know, maybe 30 kids coming in the community once a week, we thought, well, we knew what we wanted to do for that because we had already started planning that. Is there a way that we can still do that through our Facebook and then YouTube channel? And it did help to go on both. We did feel that, you know, we're pretty much just getting it out through Facebook and YouTube were the only things that we were doing. But the feedback we got motivated us to just keep on with that. And now, because of the success of our summer reading virtual programming, we are trying to plan out what we want to do for the rest of the year in terms of virtual programming, and still add the quality to it with good editing. I think sound is very important, and we were fortunate to just kind of dust off a camera and realize it had a plug-in for a microphone setup, and so we were able to use our microphones. If you happen to watch the videos, you can see we're always trying to sneak in the microphones, but we're looking at maybe investing into lapel mics that still read to the camera. I think all of those little details make big effects when people just click, or if it happens to click on while they're scrolling through Facebook, or if they want to watch a how-to. If it's done a little bit better, we're not reinventing the wheels, what I was kind of mentioning to some people, since there are STEM and STEAM professional quality videos out there, and there certainly are lessons on all manner of different things on YouTube. We just thought that maybe if we can make that quality something that's comparable, at least, that then they'll see a familiar face from their library, and they'll still want to watch it. And we had really good engagements for that, so it was a lot of fun. And that, like you mentioned earlier, Julie, is like a skill set that we kind of had to realize, how do we make this work? Because I know some, my coworker knows some. We had another person that felt pretty comfortable holding the camera, and tripods and all those kind of things make a big difference. But it was a lot of fun.
And I think that's one of the things to celebrate, is that that you guys put out these quality programs. You built engagement throughout the community. And I wonder if some of you, the recognition from these programs, are you feeling a little bit like you're a community celebrity now? Because you have your YouTube videos out there.
So I'll just say this, because I thought this was really funny, but my family and I were hiking on a trail, and I do drawing classes through the library. And then someone hiking the opposite direction. We were way up on a mountain. Someone hiking the opposite direction stopped because their kids were like, oh, there's Mr. James. He does the drawing classes with you. And I talked to him a little bit, and it was a lot of fun. Then we moved on, and my kids were kind of just teasing me about that. And another family stops. Hey, there's Mr. James. And we kind of talked again. I just kind of, I was getting a little ego boost there. So.
Wonderful. Anybody else would like to share if you tried virtual programming in your library? Join the Children's Services listserv for ACLA. We are sharing them there. Okay. I'll click their sharing links. All right, I'm going to go on to the next slide then. Okay, let's talk about 2021. The theme is going to be Reading Colors Your World. And this is some info that it's on the iRead's website. And they kind of describe the theme this way: a broad motif. The broad motif colors provides a context for exploring humanities, nature, culture, and science, as well as developing programming that demonstrates how libraries and reading can expand your world through kindness, growth, and community. Library patrons, young and old, will be encouraged to develop creativity, try new things, explore art, find beauty in diversity. The illustrations and posters will tell a story, read a book, and color your world. So this is going to be a very exciting theme. But I think the next, these are some of the actual illustrations for that theme. There's 4 different illustrators that will be designing logos for 2021. Yuyi Morales, Herb Toulette, Oliver Jeffers, and Zach Lerner. And I just pulled a couple of titles. You guys may be familiar with these illustrators. And so I think it's going to be, I think the logos and things are going to be really beautiful. I'm curious if there's folks that are interested in being on a kind of SRP advisory committee for 2021 and working with me to come up with some activities. If you want to shoot me an email after this webinar, that would be fantastic. I think this is a great opportunity, and I think, you know, I love anything that encourages art creative side of children. I think it's often not, they don't often have enough opportunities in their schools to do that. So I think this will be a fun summer reading program. The theme for 2022 is called Read on the Beaten Path, and it's kind of like summer camp at the library. And again, this information is from the iReads website. And some of the activities that they're stressing, or they think that it would be a good fit, is outdoors, such as hiking, campfires, stories, animal identification, arts, crafts, music, talent shows, and earning badges. So that's coming in 2022. And so from between now and next May, something that we are trying to do to keep people reading and keep engagement, throughout the year. And one of the things we've done is taken the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. Now, this was already developed by, I know Elizabeth Nicolai is involved in this. This was already developed. All of the graphics for this summer reading, for the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten had already been developed and were available from the Anchorage Public Library's website. And they have printable reading logs and things like that. But Beanstack already has developed kind of a template for 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. And so it was really fairly easy to move those logos and move that content onto Beanstack. So beginning on September 1st, and it will be open ongoing, families can register and they can participate in 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten, the Beanstack Challenge. One of the things that I'm working with Amy Carney, our publication specialist, to do is to develop a landing page for the Alaska Beanstack, for Alaska's Beanstack software program. And it's going to have, right now when you go there, all you see is the summer reading program, but in the future, what you're going to see is you're going to see the choices of the programs that are available, and then people can register for the ones that they want. So hopefully we're going to get that up very soon so people can see the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten Challenge, which is open for people that have children that are, 0 to 5, I think, or something like that. But also in the fall, we're going to have Alaska's 10 to Try Challenge, and it's going to go from October to May, and this is going to be a family reading challenge. And the idea is that people who participate in the challenge are going to read a book from each of these 10 categories. And the reason it works really well with families is because the family can read a book, a mystery book that's for adults, and a child could read one that's geared for their reading level as well. We're going to come up with some Amy Carney is going to be developing our logos and the images for that. And then we're going to also come up with a printable bookmark that will support this. And then the bookmark will have the different categories that people can check them off as they're going through the challenge. And then also they can do it on Beanstack. Claudia Haynes has said that she's interested in helping out with this one. And I think a youth services librarian from SICK has expressed interest as well. So, I think there'll probably be 3 challenges, but it's not really going to be challenge heavy. More than anything, it's going to be something that families can do together and keep reading throughout the year. And let's see what else. So that's everything that I had kind of on our agenda going back, but I want to leave it open because I want people to have opportunity to share about their summer reading programs. I've been looking at some of the summer reading reports that have been coming back, and there's been quite a few people that, because of the pandemic, their library never reopened. Some people never reopened their libraries, and they weren't able to offer any kind of summer reading program at all. And I know that discouraged a lot of people, and they weren't filling out their reports. And so I think even if you didn't offer a program, if you signed up for the statewide summer reading program and you received the promotional materials, I still want to hear from you. And if you didn't offer the program, that's okay. This is an incredibly unusual year. I know nationwide, I've been listening to some of the other state coordinators talking about the really low participation numbers. People, And it's devastating to youth services librarians because summer reading is one of their the highlights of the year. They spend so much time and energy looking forward to it, and then not to get the engagement, it's really hard to take. So I am just curious about overall what you guys thought, and if there's anything else the state library could do now or into the future to support you. I am really interested to hear.
Hi, Julie. This is MJ in Juneau. I had the experience where my organization did not support having summer programming. One youth services staff was home in quarantine with their family. I got sick, and the other youth services person went to the COVID communications, and there was no one to create anew or provide programming until I came back and said, this system has been created by the state. It's here for us to use. Please, may we use it? And then I was taken from a redeployment to the city clerk's office back to the library. So I'm really thankful. Any programming that our library did at all is 100%, Julie, because you put this together. And I want to thank you very, very much for providing the backup support and functionality to say, yeah, there's value here and we can do something. The learning curve of technology has been rather daunting. We're stepping forward into it carefully. And just in working with the school librarians, you know, we were always summer was the time that we got the kids, and then we shared them year round with the school librarians is kind of how our librarian group of our community looked at it. The school librarians have been reassigned to the classroom in our city, so there will be no school librarians. In the high school, there will be one each in the high school and half-time in the middle schools. So the function of libraries and the attachment and essential behaviors that we have with our communities is potentially at a really critical turning point. So I think everybody, it's really affirming to hear all of the excellent ways in which you have provided really essential services and connectedness for your communities. And compassion for how much this is like thrown so much into the air, and that we can, I'm honored to be part of this group and move forward in creating what comes next. My boss likes what's already been done. So thank you so much for creating so much material that we can move forward with a more limited staff. So for those of you who know Amelia Jenkins, she will be answering the COVID hotline questions until the disease runs its course. So we will miss her very much. So, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, MJ. You know, you bring up a really good point that there were lots of, I don't know if there were lots, but I do know several libraries that redeployed staff and pulled them out, but I wasn't aware that they, that your program, you know, was, all your staff that would have supported your program were pretty much redeployed. Wow. Anybody else like to share?
This is Elizabeth in Anchorage, and I kind of wanted to first say that I think I've had to stop my staff from doing this, and I've had to stop myself from doing this. Like, I don't think these numbers compare to any other numbers. I I can be critical, like we could have done more, we could have done this or that. We opened for about 3 weeks before we had to close again. And we're only doing curbside service now. And I think this is really hard, and I feel like I'm exhausted all the time. I'm also a parent who's trying to figure out homeschooling, and our library is under siege because we share the library building with the assembly, and there have been massive protests of hundreds of people outside, and we've had to shut the library early and take staff out of other entrances because we've been attacked for the last few weeks, and we're doing it again this afternoon. I'm at home, but right now, but and partially to avoid that. And I think everyone here, and I've been seeing some of the stuff you guys have done around the state, have done such amazing things, and I think everyone should just give themselves grace and congratulations. One of my friends was talking about virtual schooling, and he's like, I feel like if my kid logs on and there's an adult on the other side, that's a success. And I think a lot of this year needs to be about redefining what our community needs. Like MJ says, we're changing what communities and libraries mean to each other and redefining what success means. Because if I look at my numbers this year, my heart drops. But if I think about the Instagram messages we get from families showing how they use Program to Go packets, and the pictures of kids like looking at bugs in their backyards, then I'm like, I did that for 3 kids. That's good for this summer. So everyone's amazing, and give yourself a pat on the back.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you for sharing that. I had no idea that you guys, I mean, I had seen the news about the protesters. I had no idea that your staff were being threatened and people were having to be taken out of the building through other alternative exits. There's just, wow, there's just so much going on. It's just amazing. But you're right, people do need to pat themselves on the back and to celebrate those wins, because if you get a picture of 3 kids looking at bugs in their backyard, that's a win. That's awesome.
Hi, this is Adrienne, Julie, and everybody. I would like to say thank you for all your help for putting this together in such a quick manner. The summer reading program was a little discerning this year. We actually had about 1/3 of what we normally have in the group. We've had several families that moved from the area due to work issues and had to find other work in other places. So the 13 young students that I had here, 12 and under, was a blessing to be able to have them enjoy the summer. To adults that actually have never read before, enjoyed the reading program as well. Again, thank you to all of you that put the summer reading program together in such quick correspondence.
Thank you very much.
This is James here in Kenai. I was just going to mention that, one aspect of the summer reading program that we saw numbers increase would be the food distribution. We were utilizing the food bank of Alaska to help us distribute food, and they allowed us to distribute it 5 days a week with a non-congregate seating area, so that we could actually, even before our building was open, we could distribute it through curbside, so people could stop in and pick up their books and then pick up a meal if they had children 18 or under, parents could pick up. And that was something that, from my perspective as a librarian, though that typically doesn't fall on a librarian, but to give food made me feel that I was contributing to the community in a way that maybe that made me feel good. It made me feel good about what we were doing, and the fact that with curbside, not only can you get your books, but you can get a meal too for kids. And I appreciated that.
We've really loved to see libraries participate in, because it's so important, and I think probably now more than ever, with so many people who are going to be unemployed, that food insecurity is just really going to be a growing issue. So James, I'm really glad that you did that. Great. Okay, well, our time is winding up. I just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to share. So this is, if anyone would like to share questions, comments, anything?
Hi, it's Amanda. I thought maybe I would share a little bit on a positive note here in Seward. Our summer reading program actually did better than it did last year, which was fairly surprising. I think we were really lucky in many ways. You know, we had the initial lockdown. We pretty quickly realized that the whole program needed to be redone. And thankfully, I was working from home and able to focus on that. And we were pretty much told we had to open. So we've been open for the whole summer reading program, and at least in limited capacity. And what I saw a lot of was while we were trying to figure out how to open and kind of coming out of lockdown, there was a lot of negative comments, a lot of criticism of the library, and people were just so unhappy and upset. And the summer reading program, I think, became a real bright spot for people because they could come in and their registration kits are really fun. And then they had weekly take-home kits with crafts, and we'd always include like stickers or a prize and an outdoor activity. And I think actually being able to have that really brightened the mood in the community. And we started having that change to having a lot of positive reactions from people and feeling very happy about, you know, being able to come into the library and get these kits, even though they couldn't hang out here anymore. And I was really happy to see, you know, how much participation we had and more people finishing, more people registering. So at least, you know, I'm sorry everyone's had so many challenges, and it's been tough for all of us, but at least we had a little bit of a bright spot, you know, to, you know, contribute something positive. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Amanda. That's a beautiful way to close this out. Everybody, your work that you do is so important to your communities, and I know this is really tough, but hang in there. Hang in there. Your community needs you. You do important work. There's nothing more important than, you know, introducing a child to the joy of reading and supporting families with their learning. So thank you. So thanks, everybody. This is going to be recorded, and this will be made available. We'll be having it on our archived library webinar website. And if anybody wants a copy of the transcripts, I will be sure to send them out to you. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a good day.